Hi, so today I'm joined with Andrew Holland, and I need to start bashing you here about what fame engineering is. So I've seen that on LinkedIn you're a fame engineer. So for anyone who's watching this, including myself, can you explain what fame engineering is?
Yeah. So it's an evolution of PR. So what we're doing is, obviously we're in very transient times. You've got SEO, GEO, CRO, and we do PR. We're a PR company where I work, digital PR, PR agency, and we have SEO services, CRO services on top of those, which is what I'm responsible for. But over the last couple of years, I've heavily invested into the understanding of fame, how fame works, how it's cultivated, and it's incredibly linked with network science. There's a science behind fame, and we've had a lot of breakthroughs with this over recent times. We can engineer it, we can map it, we have engineered it for clients, and once you understand the science behind it, and what you can do is you can create fame for people. And because fame itself, everybody wants to be more famous relative to their sector and category. I'm not talking about infamy, I'm talking about fame and positive feelings towards somebody. And yeah, that can be, and the science is really network science. And it's no different than physical networking, from network science and links online, Google. It's all very interlinked. And once you get to the bottom of it, the object really is for a client is to be able to say, look, clients who want to become famous or more famous within their sector, how best can you do this? And that's like the science I'm in. It's new. I wrote about it recently for Search Engine Land. It's a conversation, and Marketing Week, to be honest with you. It's a conversation which is going to become more and more. And the only reason we can do this now is because of the world of artificial intelligence. That's it. And the scientists have gone out there and done network science and understand fame. And the main one of those is a guy called Albert Laszlo Barabasi, who published two amazing books. One's called Linked and the other one's called The Formula, all about the science of success and the science of fame. And then when you look around, there's so much material out there around people became famous, how they became famous, what they did. There's models called preferential attachment, also the same as link building and so forth. It's all one ecosphere. And we're now starting to be able to use AI to map things out, to help us break things out. And you can see this with TikTok. TikTok's a fame generator in itself. And the subject is fascinating because I always say, how did the Spud man from Tamworth become famous? How do people like Britney Spears become famous? How does that actually work? And once you break it down, you can see how it works and you can engineer it. Now, I'm not saying that you can just like click your fingers and it happens, but you can certainly increase your fame specifically and targeted, but also reduce waste. And that's the big key with this, reducing the waste of your marketing budget.
So I've got quite a few questions on this then. So with regards to fame engineering, let's say I wanted it for James Dooley on a personal brand level. Could I also have it for a corporate brand? So can I have it for personal brand as well as corporate brand? Or are you just focusing on the fame engineering of individuals?
No, it works the same for corporate and for individuals the same. And how it works really is so everybody has what they call fitness signals, and that's an evolutionary term. So James, you have intrinsic qualities about you and your businesses that you own that make you are able to outperform the others. Every restaurant has intrinsic qualities. They are the things that you do really well that will attract people to you for the reasons. And once you isolate what there is something called the Q effect or the Q number. And that is basically an innate natural skill. So you've seen it yourself. So you've been at networking events and someone walks in the room and they've got an instant aura about them. They instantly able to speak to people. They have a charm about them. Sydney Sweeney, call it what you want about Sydney Sweeney, the Hollywood actress. She's got a certain level of Q, and you see that in celebrities. Molly May, obviously Manchester Molly May based as great example. So what Molly May had, she's been a mini influencer, she started to do well, got some TikToks, YouTubes and stuff, and she had intrinsic qualities and a high Q effect. And if you've got a strong Q effect or Q number, what you do is you stand a greater chance of winning fame more easily because you have things that people appeal to people, whatever that is. And that's the same on a product basis. Ninja Foodie, for example, is an example of, Ninja Foodie air fryer had intrinsic qualities that made people appeal to it and made it easier to sell. So some people have them naturally. Some products can have these things designed into good product design, and and some people have these strengths. And what it is really, it's focusing on those intrinsic fitness signals, and then they're an evolutionary thing that across the whole the planet. And what you do is you take those intrinsic qualities and you maximize the fame of those qualities, or place individuals or brands and circumstances where they can shine. Molly May is a great example of an individual. Google's a great example of a public, and I'll tell you very, very quickly both stories. So let's take Google. Google grew because Yahoo got rid of the previous company whose name I can't remember. Yahoo put Google as their search engine of choice. And in the end, because they did that, they removed the previous company, whose name I just can't remember. They put Google on the front page of Yahoo, and everyone used Google to search. This was 20 odd years ago. What ended up happening, Google became so popular, they actually said, no, Yahoo, we don't need you. But it was Yahoo that accelerated Google. That was a preferential hub of fame. Molly May's no different. She's doing okay. She's got some followers. She's doing all right algorithmically. What does she do? She goes on to Love Island, the world's biggest fame accelerator for people of her sector, her type. She gets in there. She stays in there for a very long time, doesn't win. Links herself to Tyson Fury. Sorry, not Tyson Fury, to Tommy Fury, who is Tyson's Fury brother. So by the very fact that he's incidentally more famous, and the two of them go together, they win. Or they don't win the competition, but they stay in a long time. They come out, and Molly May instantly gets tons of brand deals offered to her, and eventually her brand just grows up to the point where now she's got her own Amazon Prime show. That's how big she's become in clothing brand. And you see this on every notion, and now that we can sort of engineer and map it out, you can do this for brands and individuals, and that's the next evolution of PR. And it's where I'm taking this from PR, SEO, GEO, fame. How do we make fame for people? How do we make people more famous? And that's kind of the big play that I'm involved in at the moment.
Yeah, that's class. So obviously with regards to fame engineering then, are you like, let's say someone came along, let's say like a Molly May, a smaller version of Molly May at present, right? The next Molly May, so to speak. Would you, if they came to you, would you be looking holistically at all the channels, let's say the TikTok, the Twitter, digital PR campaigns, getting in the newspapers and stuff like that? Or would you start off maybe just on social media? How does it work with regards to fame engineering? Where do you start and where does it move towards?
Well, budget matters because that's the way the world works, and the media isn't free. You can try and get free exposure, but what you need to identify is the amplification places. Where are the places where are going to make her famous towards the relative people that are going to appreciate that individual, So shoving me into, I don't even know it exists anymore, Elle magazine is not going to do much for me. Shoving me on Forbes is going to probably help me a lot more. And so it's understanding what are the amplifiers, and understand what they want to be known for, and understanding also, does an individual have the budget? So on a small sense, that's what digital PR does. Digital PR gets people more famous within the budget they have, and there's ways you can do things. You can do techniques, and you see it all the time. Brewdog's an interesting one. Brewdog I think it was driving down streets in tanks and things like that. They did originally, made them tons of press coverage, got them famous. So it depends on the individual. But once you understand where the amplification is for that particular brand, what budget they have, and then you've obviously got different aspects you can do around PR. But the thing that people make the mistake about in PR, and we did a fantastic campaign for a company called Preply years ago. We got them in Lad Bible, and what we did as a campaign, we analysed the fastest talking and the rudest places in the UK through data. And what ended up happening is the thing that got the virality, got them on TV and everything, and Lad Bible picked it up, it went viral online, millions and millions of exposures, was the fact that according to the online language platform Preply, that Manchester is the rudest place in the UK. I don't know if Manchester was or not, but it was every place had something that they could be talked about within this data piece, and obviously that created the echo effect that got people talking. Molly May's not famous just because she was on Love Island. Molly May's famous because her and Tommy Fury's love romance on the show and the antics that got up with the different contestants, the people talked about them online. So and that's another form of called memetics. So Susan Blackmore, a psychologist, I think at Oxford, I think it talks about memetics. And it's a big thing about memes, how cultural memes and also corporate can push those down from the top in terms of advertising is a form of getting memes out there and getting people talked about. So memetics is a massive subject, and the echo effect. If people stop talking about you, you cease to be popular and famous in culture. So people have to do more and more things and so forth. Actors have to keep appearing in top Hollywood films, and you see what happens when Brendan Fraser, a great example, injured his back in The Mummy Returns, I think it was, or one of the Mummy films, then put loads of weight on, couldn't get the roles, eventually stars in a film called The Whale, which he is a fat man in a fat suit, but he was still quite large. That becomes a big, massive Oscar winner, and then now his entire career is then re-emerged because the Oscar role winning the Oscar was a fame accelerant for him again, the fact that he got there. So once you start breaking this down, it's actually really easy to engineer with budgets included, and you can reduce waste. But some people go more famous than others because they just naturally have that cue effect, and for other people it's a long time. Colonel Sanders was in his mid 60s, and retired and broke when the KFC started. So, and same for Ray Kroc. Ray Kroc was very old, and what made him famous was growing McDonald's and the network effect of McDonald's and so forth. So once you get fame, you can engineer it, and that's kind of the area I'm in at the moment. I'm spending most of my time working on as well outside of SEO and GEO.
Yeah, so one last question with regards to you being a professional fame engineer, right? Obviously, doing fame engineering has massive benefits as well for getting the brand or the personal brand out into LLMs. So you mentioned GEO, so he gets the name out there. But it's also, I always say brand for the win, right? I'm obsessed with building brand, and I feel that Google are moving every single algorithm update. They move more and more towards rewarding brands. Rewarding, have you got a knowledge panel? Have you got a KGM ID and stuff like that? So if someone came to you that had semi-brand, so to speak, and had some fame, would you be able to, within the agency and digital PR, find the angles of where, connecting the nodes together and the relationship of what's missing, and then say, okay, I'm already in Forbes, I'm already an entrepreneur, however, now you need to get in X, Y, and Z. Is that what kind of a fame engineer would be looking to do as well?
Yeah, so I'm very happy. Recently, we've created fame maps, so we can map out people's fame, how it looks online. We can use different proxies for this, and it's a really cutting edge. It's literally we're talking. This is stuff I'm involved in this week, and heavily involved and spent the last 2 years researching and going out the route of. But yes, so in actual fact, if someone's got a little brand, and I wish I could had time to work on my own, and you have to have budget, and that's the other thing. You have to have budget, a bit of luck as well, and not everything's good. And there's a failure rate with campaigns, or always is going to be. And this is the thing with digital PR is when you go small as you can with digital PR, you minimize risk, but you don't maximize fame. And that's the other option. So you have to have a risk analysis in terms of okay, what am I prepared to reduce? Does this make sense? And by doing a fame engineering process, you actually reduce the limits. Now, there's all kinds of things that can happen to stop it. You can do a great campaign and then Donald Trump says something, so no media coverage can happen on that. Or you can go and do, some people say, why aren't we getting covered in digital PR? Why aren't the links happening or mentions happening? Well, look at the media. It's all talking about something else, and you can't get into things. And it depends, honestly, about the public. A lot of luck can come into these things. But over time, what you can do is you can deliberately maximize. So for someone like you, James, if you wanted to become more famous, then the look is that where do you need to be? Where's the hub that you need to be in to link yourself to fame? Now, so let's say this, an analogy, you could argue that you and Tony Robbins on the same stage together would completely make you'll elevate your fame, and Tony Robbins putting you out on his channels. Now, I'll give you a very, very tiny example of this in retrospect. So me and my daughter got invited to P. Louise. I don't know if you know P. Louise. She's a fashion brand, a cosmetic brand in the UK geared towards children. And I got invited to her launch party. Now P. Louise is a fame engineer in her own right. She's made herself famous. Her whole business is incredible. The model's incredible. What she's done is incredible. And she's worth 100 million or something crazy like that. So she hires the Everyman Cinema in Manchester to launch her own TikTok documentary. She's not waiting for somebody to do a documentary on her. She's made her own documentary, hired a film crew, done a documentary that they put out on TikTok. She doesn't wait for somebody to say, okay, let's have a launch party for this documentary. She starts her own launch party. She invites every single influencer, TikTok influencer that are linked with the company. And I walk in down a corridor in the area to a live choir singing as we're walking down, to a room full of influencers with cameras out on tripod, with their phones out, with ring lights, all doing live streams at the event. Talk about going out there to famous. They were doing live streams on the red carpet, a red carpet in Manchester for a fashion brand. And then in addition to that, my daughter then, she does this whole event and they're in the cinema and everything else like that. Incredible. Loads of people, viral footage going online, loads of conversation. So she goes to speak to my daughter and she says, oh, do you do TikToks? And she says, no, but my dad won't let me. And she says, well, why don't you start doing them? She tells me, she says, we let her do one tonight. I said, yeah, she'll do a get ready with me. So what Paige Louise does, Paige says to us, says, if your daughter does this, send it to me and I will share it on TikTok. So my daughter does this. She shares it. This is the first TikTok video she's ever done. Because she's linked to P. Louise, she gets 1,000 followers instantaneously when she does the video. And it gets 170,000 views for your first, 13-year-old TikTok video. Why? Because Paige Louise had that fame. And it's no different than you, James. If you or anybody else, you can engineer this by being linked. We didn't engineer that. We didn't know that was going to happen. It was just it was her, really, that directed it. But that's an element of fame engineering. Imagine if you could make that happen for real, and that's fame engineering.
So if anyone wants to kind of reach out to you as a fame engineer, where can they reach out to kind of look to have some fame engineering done as a service?
They can go to jbh.co.uk, which is our website, and we can talk to you that. We're a PR agency, so we can definitely help people become famous. It's all part of that. Or just message me on LinkedIn. That's another best way to get hold of me. But yeah, it's an emerging field. It's an emerging science. I'm very excited about it, and I'm hopefully going to talk about it more. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it today.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Andrew Holland. And yeah, make sure you reach out. Fame Engineering. I'd never heard it before. Now you are the professional fame engineer now that's out there. So best of luck with it anyway. And
Thank
speak
you.
to you again soon. Cheers.
Lovely. Thank you, James.